Welcome everyone to CCC Book Club reading session. Um, so for a quick basic recap, there was a little boy who went into a lamasery, and now let's all find out what happened when he entered. Marched off. At the place of the breaking, the corpse carrier would hand his burden to the breakers of bodies. The place was desolate stretch of land dotted with huge boulders, and containing one large level stone slab, large enough to hold the biggest body. At the four corners of the slab there were holes in the stone, and posts driven in. Another stone slab had holes in it, to half its depth. The body would be placed upon the slab and the cloth stripped off. The arms and legs of the corpse would be tied to the four posts. Then the headbreaker would take his long knife and slit open the body. Long gashes would make so that the flesh could be peeled off in strips. Then the arms and legs would be sliced off and cut up. Finally, the head would be cut off and opened. At first sight of the corpse carrier, vultures would have come swooping out of the sky to perch patiently on the rocks like a lot of spectators at an open-air theater. These birds had a strict social order and attempt by any presumptuous one to land before the leaders would result in merciless mobbing. Open. Plunging his hands into cavity, he would bring out the heart, at sight of which the senior vulture would flap heavily to the ground and waddle forward to take the heart from the breaker, outstretched hand. The next in order bird would flap down to take the liver, and with it would retire back to the rock to eat. Kidneys, intestines would be divided and given to the leader birds. Then the strips of flesh would be cut up and given to the other birds. One bird would come back for half the brain and perhaps one eye, and another would come flapping down for yet another tasty morsel. In surprisingly short time, all the organs and flesh would have been eaten, leaving nothing but bare bones remaining on the slab. The breakers would snap these into convenient sizes, like firewood, and would stuff them into holes in the other slab. Heavy rammers would then be used to crush bones into fine powder. The birds would eat that. These body breakers were highly skilled men. They took a pride in their work, and for their own satisfaction, they examined all the organs to determine the cause of death. Long experience had enabled them to do this with a remarkable ease. There was, of course, no real reason why they should be so interested, but it was a matter of tradition to ascertain the illness causing the spirit to depart from this vehicle. If a person had been poisoned accidentally or deliberately, the fact soon became obvious. Suddenly I found their skill of great benefit to me as I studied with them. I, Mukund, you skipped some part. Go up a bit. Yep. I soon became very proficient at dissecting dead bodies. The head breaker would stand beside me and point out all the features of this interest. This man, Honorable Lama, has died from stoppage of blood to the heart. See, we will slit this artery here, and yes, here is clotting blood, clot blood blocking the blood flow. Or it may be. Now this woman, Honorable Lama, she has a peculiar look. A gland here must be at fault. We will cut out and see. There would be a pause while he cut out a good lump. And then, here it is. We open it. Yes, it has hard core inside. So I wouldn't go on. The men were proud to show me all they could. They knew I was studying with them by direct order of the inmost one. If I was not there, and the body looked like as if it was particularly interesting, they would save it until I arrived. In this way, I would be able to examine hundreds of dead bodies, and definitely I excelled at surgery later. This was far better than training the system whereby medical students have to share cadavers in hospital school dissecting rooms. I know that I learned more anatomy with body breakers, and I did. It's an no, it's actually anatomy, but I said anatomy. Sorry. With the body breakers, then I did a full equipped medical school later. In Tibet, bodies cannot be buried in the ground. The work would be too hard because of the rocky soil and the thinness of the earth covering. Nor is the cremation possible on economic grounds. Wood is scarce, and to burn a body, timber would have to be imported from India and carried to Tibet across the mountains on the back of yaks. The cost would be fantastic. Water disposal was not permissible either, for the cast dead bodies into streams and rivers would pollute the drinking water of the living. There is no other method open to us than air disposal, in which, as described, birds consume the flesh and the bones. It differs only from Western method in two ways. Westerners bury bodies and let the worms take the place of the birds. The second difference is that in the Western world, the knowledge of cause of death is buried with the body, and no one knows if the death certificate really has stated the correct cause. Our body breakers make sure that they know what a person died of. Everyone who dies in Tibet is disposed in this way except the highest lamas, who are previous incarnations. These are embalmed and placed in a glass-fronted box where they can be seen in temples or embalmed and covered with gold. This latter process was most interesting. I took part in such preparations many times. Certain Americans who have read my notes on the subject cannot believe that we really use gold. They say that it would be beyond even America's skill. Quite, we did not mass produce things, but dealt with individual items, as only the craftsmen could. We in Tibet could not make a watch to sell for $1, but we can cover bodies in gold. One evening, I was called to the presence of a bot. He said, "A previous incarnation is shortly to leave this body. Now he is at the rose fence. I want you to be there. They can observe the preserving in sacredness." So once again, I had to face the hardships of the saddle and journey to Sara. At the lamasery, I was shown to the room of the old abbot. His auric colors were on the point of extinction, and about an hour later he passed from the body to the spirit. Being an abbot, an erudite man, he had no need to be shown the path to Bardo, nor we had to wait the usual 3 days. For that night only the body sat in lotus attitude, while llamas kept their death watch. In the morning, at first light of day, we filed in solemn procession down through the main lamasery building into the temple, and through the little used doors down to secret passages below. Ahead of me, 2 llamas carrying the body on a litter. It was still in lotus position. Uh, from the monks behind came a deep chanting and, in silences, the trill of silver bell. We had on our red robes, and over them our stick stoles. On the walls our shadows were thrown in flickering dancing outline, exaggerated and distorted by the light of the butter lamps and flaring torches. Down we went, down into the secret places. At last, some 50 or 60 feet below the surface, we arrived at the sealed stone door. We entered the room. It was ice cold. The monks carefully set down the body, and then all departed except the 3 llamas and I. Hundreds of butter lamps were lit and provided a harsh yellow glare. Now the body was stripped of its vestments and carefully washed through the normal orifices. The internal organs were removed and placed into jars, which were carefully sealed. The inside of the body was thoroughly washed and dried, and a special form of lacquer was poured into it. This would be form as hard as crust inside the body, so that the outlines would be as in life. With lacquer dry and hard, the body cavity was packed and padded with great care so not to disturb the shape. More of the lacquer was poured into saturate the padding and in hardening to provide a solid interior. The outer surface of the body was painted with lacquer and allowed to dry. Over the hardened fence, the peeling solution was added, so that the thin sheets of filmy milk silk, which were now to be passed on, could later be removed without causing harm. At last, the padding of silk was considered adequate. More lacquer of a different type was poured on, and the body was now ready for the next stage of preparations. For a day and night, it was allowed to remain stationary, so that the final and complete drying could take place. At the end of time, we returned to the room to find the body quite hard and rigid, and in the lotus position.
Ayun,
Sorry, that's my fault. I accidentally pressed on it. Can I continue?
Yes.
Okay. Uh, okay. Over the hard. Where was I? At. Where was I for a day? Okay. For a day and a night, it was allowed to remain stationary so the final complete drying could take place. At the end of the time, we returned to the room to find it quite hard and rigid and in the lotus position. We carried it in procession to another room beneath, which was a furnace so built that the flames and heat could circulate around the walls of his room, and so provide an even and high temperature. The floor was thickly covered with special powder, and in this, the floor was thickly covered with special powder, and in the center, we placed the body. Down below, monks were already preparing to light the fires. Carefully, we packed the whole room tightly with special salt from one district of Tibet, and a mixture of herbs and minerals. Then, the room filled with floor to ceiling. We filed out the corridor, and the door of the room was closed and sealed with the skull of Lamasery. The order to light the furnaces was given. Soon there came the crackling of the wood and sizzling of the burning butter as the flames spread. With furnaces well alight, they continued to burn yak. But dung and waste butter. For the whole week, the fire raged down below, sending clouds of hot air through the hollow walls of the embalming chamber. At the end of the seventh day, no more fuel was added. Gradually, the fire died down and flickered out. The heavy stone walls creaked and groaned in their cooling. Once more, corridor became cool enough to enter. For the 3 days, all was still on as we waited for the room to reach the normal temperatures. On the 11th day from the date of sealing, the great seal was broken, and then the door was pushed open. Relays of monks scraped out the hardened compound with their hands. No tool were used in that case as the body was harmed. For 2 days the monks scraped away, crushing in the hands of the friable salt compound. At last the room was empty, except for the shrouded body sitting so still in the center. Still the lotus attitude. Carefully we lifted it and one second please, Mukund. Okay, I'm back. Thank you for waiting. Carried to the other room, where in the light of the butter lamps we would be able to see more clearly. Now the silken coverings were peeled off one by one until the body was alone remained. The preserving had been perfect, except that it was so much darker. The body might have been that of a sleeping man, who might at any time awaken. The contours were as life in there was no shrinkage. Once again, lacquer was applied to the naked dead body, and the goldsmiths took over. These were men who, with skill surpassed craftsmen, men who can cover up dead flesh with gold. Slowly they worked, layer upon layer of the thinnest, softest gold. Gold worth a fortune outside Tibet, but they were only valued only as sacred metal, a metal that was incorruptible. and so symbolic of a man's final spirit state. The priest goldsmiths worked with exquisite care, attentive to the minutest details, so that when their work was finished, they left as testimony of their skill. A golden figure, exact as in life, with every line and wrinkle reproduced. Now the body, heavy with its gold, was carried to the hall of incarnations, and like the others there, set upon a gold throne. Here in this hall there were figures set upon the gold throne, dating back to the earliest times, sitting in rows like Solomon judges, watching with half-closed eyes, with frailties, no, frailties, oh no, it's frailties, and failing of the present generation. We talked in whispers here and walked carefully, as if not to disturb the living dead. To one body in particular, I was attracted. Some strange power held me fascinated before it. It seemed to gaze at me with all-knowing smile. Just then there was a gentle touch on my arm. I nearly dropped with fright. That was you, Lobsang, in your last incarnation. We thought you wouldn't recognize it. My guide led me to the next gold figure and remarked, and that was I. Silently, both much moved. We crept from the hall, and the door was sealed behind us. Many times after I was allowed to enter that hall and study gold-clad figures. Sometimes went alone and sat in the meditation before them. Each has its written story, which I studied with the greatest interest. Here was the history of my present guide, and the door was present guide. The Lama Minya Donab, the story of what he had done in the past, a summary of his character and abilities. The dignities and here dignities and honors conferred upon him, the manner of his passing. Here was also my past, and that too. I study with my hidden chamber carved from the rock, and with the well-concealed door. The history of Tibet was before me, or so I thought. The earliest history would be shown to me later. After a various lamaseries, I had been embarking some half-dozen times. Excuse me. I was one day sent from the abbot in charge of Chakpori. My friend said he on the direct board of the precious one, you are to be initiated as Nabot. Sorry, excuse me. As you have requested, you can, like Mingyar Donyup, continue to be addressed as Lama. I merely give a message of the precious one. So I recognized an incarnation. I had again the status with which I had left Earth some 600 years before. The wheel of life had revolved a full circle. Some time later, an aged Lama came to my room and told me that I must undergo the ceremony of the little death. For my son, until you have passed the gateway of death and returned, you cannot truly know what that there is no death. Your studies in astral traveling have taken you far. This will take you much farther beyond the realms of life and into the past of our country. The preparatory training was hard and prolonged. For 3 months, I led a strictly supervised life. Special courses of horribly tasting herbs, adding an unpleasant item to my daily menu. For 3 months, I was adjured to keep my thoughts on that alone, which is pure and holy, as if one had much too much lamasery. Even tamsa and tea had been taken in less quantity. Rigid austerity, strict discipline, and long, long hours of meditation. At last, 3 months, the astrologers said that the time was now right. The portents were favorable. For 24 hours I fasted until I felt as empty as a temple drum. Then I was led down those hidden stairs and passages far below the potala. Far down we went, flaring torches in the hands of others, nothing in mine. Down through the corridors I had traversed before. At last we reached the end of the passage. Solid rock confronted us, but the whole boulder was swung aside at all. Mukund, can you please scroll down? Thank you. Okay. Approach. Another path confronted us, as a dark and narrow path with odor of stale air, spices and incense. Several yards farther on we have stopped momentarily by a ponderous gold sheeted door, which was slowly opened to the accompaniment of protesting squeaks which echoed and re-echoed as if buttered lamps vast space. Here the torches were extinguished and butter lamps lit. We moved ahead into the hidden temple with the solid rock by volcanic action in the long past. One sec, masters.
Ryan, you're muted again.
Yes, okay. Should I stop now and ask the questions?
Yes, Ryan. You a good idea. If you want, Ryan, you can read it a little bit longer. But if you want to end it now, you can end it now. I think we should do questions and answers because our masters talk a lot.
Because Joshua and Mukund, I'm also hosting the guided meditation, so I need to be there early.
Oh yeah. Okay then. You can
Okay.
start.
Let's begin with the questions. Okay. So before I ask any for responses, does anyone have any questions? Anyone?
Please raise your hand if you have any questions.
Yes.
Me only. And is my camera on and off, Ryan? Guys, everyone, we only need 7 more pages before we finish the book. So I think masters, we're gonna finish the book today, and I'd be happy to hand over my leader position to a new person. But the only problem is I don't really know. I don't know if it's ready because I don't know, because not many people it's actually, I think it's the USA group next to the India group. I'm not sure. Right now, this is Australia time, right? Yeah.
The USA or India? It's total India or USA? It's changing.
Oh, okay. So I think masters, we might not attend the sessions because it varies. So masters, you can buy the book and you can read, but we might see the timing, and then Joshua and me will let you know if you have if that's a convenient time for you, you can join.
And Ryan,
Yep.
is Tanisha going to tell it tomorrow?
Tanisha. So Tanisha's not
Or
like.
do you want to do it like yesterday? I mean, last time, like you did half and Tanisha did half because she is pretty little.
Yeah, I want to give her turns before it will end. So yeah, we'll do half.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we end the session, I would like to ask each of you for your responses. So, Mukund, would you like to start first?
Yep.
Okay. Do you have any
Ryan,
questions?
I think I don't have any questions. I think you did perfect job. You did very super well, and lucky that I was able to catch up with you because you're a good reader, and like that was confusing for me. But good job overall today. I have no improvements for you.
I think
Yeah.
I think am I the only one, or did I feel like I went a bit fast?
Nah, no.
Ryan, you're not the only one who felt like that. I read a whole chapter in one day, so I think that was pretty fast.
No,
Yeah,
like
we
I
girls.
was reading
No.
a few bits fast.
It's okay, Ryan. It's not
Yeah,
even that
okay.
fast.
It's not
Actually,
fast.
it's good you read it fast because you guys read what I already read yesterday.
Yeah, Joshua, but
Okay.
I think you should not reveal like the secrets because yeah. So
Mukund, back to you. Do you have any favorite part from today's session?
my favorite part was like the body breakers where they broke the body and like they gave out the flesh to the birds.
How they explained it and thing, like the sedition. Yeah, that was also a good part. Anything else? Did you like the session?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for your response. Joshua, would you like to go next?
Yes. Ryan,
Okay. Yep.
you did it very, very well today.
Thank you.
I don't think you need any improvements.
Okay.
And there's nothing else. And I don't think I wasn't here for this whole session, so I didn't really think I have a favorite.
Favorite? Okay. Do you have any questions?
No.
Joshua, it's okay. You don't have to do this, but for the part you were here from the session, would you like to tell us what's your favorite part of the part you came?
Okay.
It's okay if you don't want to or you don't remember. It's okay.
Okay. My favorite part would be where he figured out this he saw the body of his previous incarnation.
Yeah, that's cool as well. That's what I thought. Any questions?
No.
Yes,
Ryan, can I? Okay.
you can.
Masters, let's stop the recording.
Okay.
And okay.